What's good YouTube? My name is Huncho. I'm one of the best Hecarims in the world. Last season I peaked 1200 LP with a near 80% win rate on Hecarim. Today I'm going to be showing you the absolute best Hecarim build in season 14. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Yo, this champ is not okay. What the fuck am I witnessing? What am I witnessing, bro?
So the build is Ionian Boots into Thunder Sky Rush, into Manamune, into Eclipse or Styrax, into situational bruiser items after that. The rune page you want with this build ideally is a standard Conqueror setup with Eyeball Collection and Ingenious Hunter secondary. You also want double adaptive plus scaling HP, as these work the best with this build. If you're going to be running Phase Rush with this build, you can still do it. It's just going to be a standard Phase Rush setup with Ingenious secondary, as well as double adaptive and scaling HP. As most of you may know, Ingenious Hunter in Season 14 has really great synergy with some of the bruiser items in the game, like Thunder Sky and Eclipse. And with this build, you mainly just want to play off those item synergies, plus Conqueror, in combination with adding Manamune. Now, right off the bat, I know some of you are already thinking, Manamune is a waste of gold in season 14, it's not viable anymore. To that I say, we should first look at why we stopped building Manamune in the first place. So Riot made changes to Hecarim's mana pool, decreasing it and subsequently decreasing its Q mana cost, making Manamune as an item less important, and also making it give less AD because of less mana in Hecarim's pool. Jungle nerfs hit Hecarim really hard in season 13, and there's just too much to talk about with these nerfs, but to summarize, snowballing got hit really hard in the jungle, and the blue smite nerf was really big, as it's the nerf I felt the most. The combination of these changes with the fact that Hecarim has a lot of volatile matchups early game makes it so wasting 400 gold on a tier early game can actually be game costing, especially against matchups like Bel'Veth or Lee Sin or Nidalee, who can really punish Hecarim early. So we know why we don't build tier anymore, but why did I start building it now? This is because I believe Thunder Sky is a strong enough first item spike where you're actually able to sacrifice the 400 gold early and play for more mana. Thunder Sky plus more mana is one of the best 2 item spikes in the game right now for Hecarim, second place arguably being Eclipse and Thunder Sky. Ingenious Hunter also synergizes with this build insanely well. Every item you build is going to work with it. So you might be thinking, oh, this build looks good on paper, there's nothing new, but I thought Shojin was one of the best items on Hecarim and I'm not building it. Shojin is one of the best items on Hecarim, just in general, but for this build it doesn't really have a place, and early in the season I was experimenting with Shojin Rush into this build. It just didn't feel that good because you're not using the full potential of Ingenious, right? I'm okay with trading off ability haste for some of these items like Thunder Sky and Eclipse. I think it makes a lot of sense and it feels really good. Another question you might have with this build is, why do I take Conqueror over Phase Rush so often? And the explanation to this is pretty simple. Conqueror has been the best rune on Hecarim since forever. It synergizes better with this build, with these items, and it makes you incredibly strong early with dueling potential. But it does require you to have better positioning and better movement, because you don't have the comfort of Phase Rush movement speed and slow resist. Conqueror is a lot more punishing than Phase Rush if you have bad positioning, but it's a lot more rewarding if you can position properly. Conqueror is the rune I mainly used to get 1200 LP on Hecarim last season as well. There's only a few times where Phase Rush is actually better than Conqueror. Think of champions like Zilean, Ashe, Nasus, or when you're against comps with very squishy high mobility champs. Phase Rush will most likely be better in those situations. So we have all the information about this build, we know everything, but how do I know this build is actually good? And how do I know this information I'm giving you is valid? I played around 50 games of Hecarim on my challenger accounts, and I picked Hecarim in every single bad situation into every comp just to experiment and test out this build. Over these 50 games, I had a win rate of 66%, going Conqueror and tier over 90% of all the games. In conclusion, I've come up with 3 variations of the score build. First variation is my favorite and it's the one I use the most. Just simply involves you getting an early tier and doing the build I talked about earlier, which is Thunder Sky into Manamune, into Eclipse or Styrax, into situational items. The second variation is for jungle matchups where you can't really afford to get the early tier. Think of matchups where you're going to get invaded, matchups where it's more punishable and you need Thunder Sky earlier. In this variation, you're still going to want to rush Thunder Sky, but you're going to be picking up a tier later into the game, so around the 10-minute mark at the latest. This will likely mean you're getting Manamune 3rd item instead, because your tier isn't going to be stacked, so you can opt for Eclipse 2nd. Third variation is just doing the same build but with Phase Rush, and I think it's pretty viable as well. Every day on stream, I have people asking me what the best build on Hecarim is. The truth is, most Hecarim builds that are out there are valid. If you take a look at the highest elo Hecarim mains, most of them, including myself, have different builds we use. This means that changing your build is usually not the key to climbing on this champ. Most likely the build you're using right now is fine. I'm making this video to showcase this build and the return of Manamune. Also, I feel like this build is just by far the best. In reality, you can climb on any build, but what matters a lot more is the way you play Hecarim. If an actual Hecarim guide is something that might interest you, please let me know in the comments and I'll definitely work on that. I'll be using this exact build to climb in High Challenger this split. All my games are going to be played on stream at Huncho1v9 on Twitch. make sure to stop by and drop a follow for educational gameplay. If you're interested in coaching, make sure to join my Discord in the description of this video. I'm hosting coaching giveaways for every 100 members that join a Discord, so click the link in the description. That about wraps up the video. If you have any other questions, make sure to leave it in the comments or DM me on Discord. Make sure to like and subscribe if you found this video helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.